you know what the movements should be like in table tennis doubles? We are not always clear on how to move when we play doubles in table tennis. Most of the points in doubles are scored in the very first shots, but in this new video we want to see the movements of the players even in games that last longer. In the previous videos we have seen how the players move to the first, second and third ball. The movements are always the same except for some exceptions for the third ball. In this video we focus on doubles movements with both players right-handed. The Spanish team moves synchronized like a wave from right to left and vice versa without ever overlapping. The movement of the Spanish team really gives an idea of how movement should be in doubles. During this point there is a moment in which the Chinese player Wang cannot see when the Korean player Shin hits the ball, and this is because the view is covered by her partner Sun. This is another example of how a point is lost because there is an overlap in positions which prevents the Chinese Shui player from seeing the moment of the opponent's response. Let's try to look at the movements of all the players before the circled player's fourth shot. The number 1 player immediately after serving moves to the right and back, to let his partner number 3 come in and hit the ball. In the meantime player number 2, just after responding, moves to his right, to give space for his partner number 4 to hit the ball. And finally it is interesting to note the movement of the 4th player who, after hitting the ball, moves backwards so as not to hinder his partner in the next play. Also in this point the same pattern and the same movements, all players always have a complete view of where the ball is by moving correctly. At this precise moment, the Hong Kong player is not in a position to see how and where the ball will be hit. They will inevitably lose the point. Also on this occasion, the German player takes a step back and then towards the center so as not to hinder his partner. Kahara found herself in a position where she couldn't clearly see where the ball was at the time of her opponent's return. So she made a very easy ball for her opponents. At this point with the same pattern and the same movements, all the Japanese players, in this case Kahara, always have a complete view of where the ball is by moving correctly and therefore can respond well.
Need 3 points to make it 6-5.
Again the same mistake for the Japanese team and Kahara again is in trouble.
Serves.
In this point lost by the Chinese team, the 2 players overlap twice, preventing one of the 2 players from having a correct view. In this point lost by the Saudi Arabia team, the error of the player receiving the opponent's serve is very evident. The player moved to the left instead of the right. Very trivial mistake. We can see how teams with a right-handed player and a left-handed player are more fluid in their movements. Teams with both right-handed players risk overlapping much more often. For the South Korean players, 1 right-handed player and 1 left-handed player, player Jaeon, the movements are more natural and almost never overlap as happens to the opponents.
Sun to serve. 8-2 up.
In conclusion, in doubles it is essential to avoid overlap between team members. Overlapping players can cause it to be difficult to see when the opposing player hits the ball and therefore the direction of the ball.
Absolute sync.
Teams with a right-handed player and a left-handed player have an advantage in movements and are able to have better synchronization by avoiding overlaps.
It was escalating all the way through, and as he got pushed really to the very outside.